Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, and back with another reaction video. Today we're going to react to Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order? Yeah. Without further ado, man, you already know, man, we finna get right into this. This is Good Burger defined the 90s. Without further ado, let's check it out.
When I think of what defined the 90s, I think of the Nintendo 64, the Talk Boy, the Spice Girls, but for me, my top pick was Kenan and Kel.
Yes.
The duo together, not just their show. Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell provided some of Nickelodeon's most memorable live-action works during this era.
Yes.
From being standout regulars on Nick's sketch comedy show All That, to having their own sitcom simply titled Kenan and Kel, to then ultimately getting their own theatrical movie together, Good Burger, which was based on sketches from their time on All That, taking notes from the films that resulted from Saturday Night Live sketches. But the crazy part? These two worked on all these projects at the same time. This isn't exaggeration when I tell you these two were a huge part of my childhood, plus my multiple videos on the Kenan and Kel show already. Good Burger means so much to me. Today, along with my friend Johnny Tucellos, we'll catch up with this duo, let us take a closer look and pick apart this beefy burger's legendary status, sorting through its cheesy one-liners and wrapping it all up with an abundance of inside knowledge about why Good Burger was a delicious hit.
I don't see no tomatoes.
Oh, sorry, Shaq. Here you go.
Consider yourself
Tomato. My shit, man.
The whole concept of Good Burger had its humble beginnings as an All That sketch. The idea was simple. Ed, the seemingly dim-witted but well-mannered cashier at a burger joint, he takes orders from the customers, but being the quirky-minded person that he is, Ed would get their orders wrong in a humorous way, or just all-around chaos and shenanigans would ensue. Kel Mitchell played the lead role as Ed, but Kenan actually played several different characters: the winning ticket guy, the plumber, and most notably, Lester Oak's construction worker. This irate character would make multiple reappearances. His over-the-top and physically exaggerated actions worked perfectly in contrast to Ed's laid-back tone and absurdist style of humor. Ed's goofy humor would get big reactions out of an angry Lester, a duo archetype that has stood the test of time. So when it came time to make a movie, you'd think it'd be simple. Just take this formula and make it, well, bigger. But that was the problem. Would it make sense to base a whole movie between the character of Ed and the character of Lester and have the same effect work for the entire film's runtime?
No.
And well, they both can't just be the funny guy. That would get exhausting for the duration of a film. We need to ground one of the characters to emphasize the comedic character, and it wasn't going to be Ed on the chopping block. Thus, Dexter was born. The concept of the movie was simple. Dexter, a new employee at Good Burger, works together with Ed to take down the new shady corporation in town, Mondo Burger, when they purposefully try stealing all of their business, but it's the moments in between all of this that makes the movie special. It's all about what the film really boils down to, and that's thanks to the relationship between Ed and Dexter. See, Ed thinks he's making a friend. Dexter's whole goal is just to make some money, whether it's from working at Good Burger or trying to scam the earnings from Ed's sauce that becomes a plot point to help save Good Burger. But this battle between the burger joints causes a wild adventure for them to go on to build a true friendship between them. At this point in their career together, Kenan and Kel feel so connected and the relationship feels genuine. It's also filled with great music that truly places it in the 90s. From R&B to ska to hip-hop to punk, it had it all. Aside from musical cues when certain movements or tone shifts happen, they brought on board the best possible person to score the film. If you're a massive Spyro the Dragon fan like me, you'd also highly appreciate this and distinctively point it out instantly. But it's none other than the legend Stuart Copeland himself. His work with Nickelodeon didn't stop here, as you'd hear his music styling with The Amanda Show, another skit-based show that spun off from All That, with another massive star in the making, Amanda Bynes. It doesn't get more 90s than the sounds that beautifully brought to life Spyro the Dragon all over this film. I'm just saying. And again, you can't forget, this was the 90s, so celebrity cameos or bit roles were a staple for the time. It's almost like Marvel movies now to see who cameos next. But in this movie, of course, you have Shaq being, well, himself, Sinbad, who plays one of Dexter's teachers, who just gets the worst luck thanks to Dexter and for some reason is the bad guy when Dexter was clearly in the wrong. Oh, and Carmen Electra. I don't need to elaborate on that one. Some other castmates from all that were in the film as well. Josh Server, who plays a fellow employee at Good Burger, and good old Lori Beth Denberg, makes a cameo as her classic Connie Muldoon character from all that. And what's a cheesy 90s comedy without its over-the-top evil villain? Kurt fits those shoes nicely. Not only is his motivation near non-existent to truly be evil, but he's just so hammy in the role. The way he threatens Good Burger to the strict way he runs his overly large patty franchise. He embodies corny villains who are doing something bad, but act like it's even worse than it is. Plus the jumpsuits. I mean, come on, they're so sleek. Dare I say, iconic. I don't care how bad for you those injected Mondo burgers were or how evil Kurt and his employees were. Mondo Burger itself looked like a party and a half. Oh, and mad respect to Abe Vigoda for being in this, as well as George Clinton, which thanks to his conversation with Ed in the film turns a psych ward into a dance number sequence to some funky music by George himself. Nothing like a classic dance number for no reason. We love to see it. There are so many notable and quotable moments that I still quote to this day thanks to the impact that this film had on me. You can't hand me a piece of paper to read without me looking at it, shaking my head up and down and saying, I know some of these words. And whether you find that cringy or not, I really don't care. It's never not funny to me, and it brings me more joy than I can verbally explain. The reason words said a certain way to take them so literal as a joke thanks to Ed's excellent execution of not understanding their meanings, it's just so beautiful to watch in motion. Watch your butt. He'll try and watch his butt. Give me a shake. He'll just shake the person. Oh, and it's unbeatable with its quotability. While this movie is legendary, it ultimately works because the dynamic duo, especially for the fans of their other works together. Without their history together, Good Burger may not have been the movie we know it as today.
Facts.
That is, if this movie would have been a thing at all.
I'm gonna have lunch at Mondo Burger, home of the Big Booty Burger.
Good Burger. Good Burger, starring our very own Keenan and Kel.
Throughout their history together, Keenan and Kel sort of stood above the rest. Not that the other performers on all that weren't great, it's just when you paired these two together in any scenes or sketches, it was magic. From Mavis and Clavis to all their other bits, the creatives behind all that knew their chemistry was special. They often said that you'd think these two had known each other for years and years, but in reality, they only started their journey together with all that. When it came to the Good Burger sketch, the character of Ed was something that Kel partially created and made his own, picking out his wig and the iconic surfer dude vocal tone. It's not just that this whole idea worked well, it was the most popular bit on the show. Every time Keenan would come on for the sketch, their chemistry was palpable, almost becoming a game of who can make who laugh and break character. And their electricity together took them from an ensemble cast to their own show, Keenan and Kel, all while still performing on all that. And it wouldn't be long before their already busy schedules would get even busier with the opportunity to make a film. With Nickelodeon's success at the box office for their Harriet the Spy movie in 1996, their next move would be to take from their already existing library of content. So why not build upon the surefire team of Keenan and Kel? While the Keenan and Kel show was still new and hadn't warranted the acclaim for a movie, there was a blueprint to follow. That being Saturday Night Live. Since all that was seen as the SNL for kids, it seemed like a no-brainer. Blues Brothers, Coneheads, Wayne's World, and more all stemmed from sketches on SNL. When looking at all that, sure, there were many fun sketches to enjoy, but nothing stood out enough to justify the movie treatment. All except for Good Burger. It had exactly what they needed. Two funny young stars in Keenan and Kel, and an environment around which you can develop a fun story, a fast food restaurant. Their only real risk was translating the love for this duo from TV to the big screen. Would the marketing be effective when it stems from something a bit more niche that may not extend out to the masses? If you watched all that in Keenan and Kel, you knew what this film was and why to be excited. But if you had no clue about either show or these two actors, why would you care? It was a big risk for Nickelodeon's second feature film to take, but they knew Keenan and Kel were stars, and they felt that it was worth it. With Paramount wanting to produce more Nickelodeon movies going forward, the idea with Good Burger started off as a 15-ish minute extended sketch of Good Burger written out. When presenting it to a live studio audience to gauge the reception of this few-minute skit into something larger that featured a narrative arc, the audience was very receptive, which got the wheel of creativity churning even more. The creatives took Keenan and Kel aside afterwards and presented the possibility of turning the sketch into a full film, with the The only initial struggle now being writing Keenan into the story properly, where he wasn't just playing some random character. He already had experience working in the film world, being in a few 90s films like The Mighty Ducks D2 and D3, and the Ben Stiller comedy Heavyweights, but for Kel, this would be his first film production. The studio struggled to work out Keenan's role, initially taking inspiration from his previous All That characters, but quickly finding themselves stuck back in the sketch version of this idea. They needed something that worked specifically for the film to balance out the absurdity of Kel. When developing his character of Dexter, they opted for a jaded character that wouldn't really ever seem like he cares about the job or those around him, allowing the opportunity for a strong character arc. So throughout the film, we see Dexter going from being very annoyed of Kel and eventually trying to rip him out of his cut for the Ed sauce that helped save Good Burger, to the two of them feeling like brothers by the end of it, having Keenan care for Kel in a genuine way.
The first season of Keenan and Kel ended in January of 1997 and wouldn't return until September of that year, but that gap in time was still filled with All That during its third season, which was running from November of 1996 to October 1997. There was a little buffer room to shoot this film, as there would be only 20 new episodes of All That during that year span, so production on the film took place from early March 1997 to April 1997. It sure is admirable to have practically no break in between all three productions they were currently working on. For an $8.5 million budget, the film needed to be fast-tracked, especially with those schedules. For Brian Robbins, this would be his first film he would direct. He did direct some episodes of All That in Keenan and Kel, but for a full film, his only prior experience was directing a documentary, which are two completely different avenues. The film's pre-production started in January of 97. The film would premiere in theaters July 25th of 97, meaning from start to finish, they only had a tight 7-month turnaround with only 4 weeks to prep for the actual shoot. The film would turn in $23.7 million at the box office, nearly making the initial budget back on its $7 million opening weekend. While bringing in a few million less than Harriet the Spy, based on the budget, it still returned a little over $1 million more than Harriet did. The film itself really became its own thing outside of the sketch. Sure, you had the character of Ed, the classic welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger, can I take your order, and some winks and nods for fans of All That to laugh at, but aside from that, the movie was its own beast. This was necessary, as the source material was really slim, so building upon what was there was nearly free range. At this time, Keenan and Kel were both only 18 years old, with two different careers following this in the 2000s. But aside from the fans of Keenan and Kel and Good Burger in general, was the film received well by critics?
I'm Kurt. I'm Ed. I'm Blair. You said you were Kurt. The critics are hungry for Good Burger, the newest movie from Paramount Pictures. It's called Good Burger. Move on.
The quick answer to that is no. The reviews for the film were not in its favor. Sure, the film brought in a nice return on investment for the studio, but it did little to prove to critics that there was success building with these Nickelodeon movies, nor for a film career for these two actors. Maybe they were meant to be on TV rather than film. That was the thought process back then. Nickelodeon, however, was cool with everything. The film brought money in for Paramount, but for a future movie with these two in it or a sequel to Good Burger, nothing seemed to be on the table at this point.
Until now, because now there's a sequel being made. They already making memes of Kel for some odd reason. They making memes of Kel. Good Burger 2 is on the way. I'm highly anticipating that. I want to see what they're going to do with that. I'm definitely going to go see that when it come out. I'm definitely going to support that. This is my childhood right here.
Everyone went back to making more All That and Keenan and Kel right after, picking back up right where they left off like nothing ever happened. At the end of the run for Keenan and Kel, the series ended with a movie, a TV movie. Made a whole video about it on the channel already, but it was able to give us another film with this duo, but just as their characters in Keenan and Kel. A film that was surely a weird way to end the series, but a great send-off in the end. For me, the movie represents so much of what I loved in the 90s, and what made me growing up. I have gushed about Keenan and Kel before here on the channel a couple of times, and hopefully more in the future. These two were incredible together and made one of my favorite shows and one of my personal favorite movies. Was Good Burger ever going to win an Oscar? Is it the greatest film ever made? No. But what it encapsulates, what it was able to create, was a moment in time where two of the biggest kids' TV stars got to make a movie that no matter when you pop it in to watch or stream, those cozy, nostalgic feelings come flooding right back.
Yep.
The reason you still remember Good Burger so well is not just all the above, but the soul of what made it special. Keenan and Kel. Separate and together, these two had something that was unexplainably special. A formula that works so well because of these two that it can't directly be duplicated. Even when the same people behind the shows that Keenan and Kel were in tried to capture lightning in a bottle again with Drake and Josh. And as much as I love that show and as much as I watch it over and over again today, the ingredient or ingredients that sets them apart is Keenan and Kel. Point blank. Good Burger had the ability to transcend from what can be considered a cheesy, nothing too special kids film into an instant classic, mainly for the kids of the 90s who were on this Keenan and Kel ride. That's not to say if you didn't grow up with Keenan and Kel nor ever saw this movie that you wouldn't enjoy it, but I can understand the lack of potential attachment to it. Nostalgia plays a big factor into the iconicism of Good Burger, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it more and more. It's cheesy, but it's charming. Easily when I look back on the great things the 90s had to offer, this is right up there on the list as a must-see joyride of comedy. If nothing more, the film holds a place in my heart and so many others like Johnny.
For me, the single thing that stands out the most in Good Burger after all these years is its heart. Yeah, the entire premise is silly as hell and it's filled with absurd sequences, including one in which a baby is thrown into a basketball hoop. But at its core, this film is about two characters, Dexter and Ed. And while it's funny through and through, the scenes that stand out to me are the ones that are earnest and genuine. And that's sort of the magic of Ed as a character, because even though he's a caricature and arguably one of the most ignorant characters in film history, he is absolutely genuine 100% of the time. When he says rude things to customers, he has no idea what he's saying is rude, and he has no intention of being a bad guy. He just doesn't know better. And through this surfer bro caricature, Ed somehow manages to invoke the most emotional sequences. The one scene that I keep going back to is when Ed brings Dexter to his secret spot, a couple of lawn chairs on the roof of Good Burger. This is where Dexter opens up to Ed for the very first time and talks about how his dad left him and his difficult life moving around with his mom. He tells him about this cool yo-yo that his dad gave him and how much that meant to him. And though Ed ends up breaking this moment with a silly comment, leading Dexter to believe that Ed didn't really retain any of what he just told him, he's proven wrong. Later in the film, Ed gifts Dexter this cool yo-yo because Dexter has become his one real friend. Even though through their performances in this film you can see why Keenan was the one to go on to do SNL, given that his character required a bit more range and nuance, the reality is that Ed's surfer bro caricature still manages to carry the emotional weight. And while watching this movie all these years later, I was filled with nostalgia and laughed thoroughly through and through. My big takeaway was how they managed to move me emotionally through that silliness.
Now, during the year of its 25th anniversary, the film is a cult classic for the kids of the 90s. Not only was the film put on Blu-ray in 2021, there is also some potential for this duo to suit back up in some sort of sequel. Aside from them reuniting in recent years to produce the newest season of All That, the two reprised their Good Burger sketch roles for the 10th anniversary of All That, and in September of 2015, Keenan and Kel appeared on The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon, to make a reunion sketch for Good Burger, giving the fans a little dose of nostalgia. But a few years later, in 2018, both Keenan and Kel made some comments regarding the future of Good Burger. Kel stated that there were talks for a Good Burger 2 at the time, as well as later in the year, Keenan made comments stating that they are both open to either a sequel or a reboot. Further proof that people, much like Johnny and myself, still remember Good Burger fondly and hold it in a special place. In 2019, a pop-up Good Burger restaurant opened up, partially in part due to promoting All That and celebrating the awesome shows Nickelodeon had in the 90s. It was a really cool and fun idea, especially for the residents of Los Angeles, and I'm totally not really jealous. A proposed name for a potential sequel was Good Burger To Go. It came from a book of the same title written by Steve Holland in 1998, a year after the film came out. It would follow the two as they now travel around the world. Today, this idea could work whether it's globetrotting or not, as they can play into food delivery services. I mean, they already got the car, but yeah, Good Burger was the best thing since the Nugget. If you're a fan of Good Burger, I implore you to tell us some of your favorite moments from the film in the comments, as well as if you see it as a potential 90s defining movie. If not, what's your pick? And thanks so much to Johnny for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jordan. Good Burger and All That were such major parts of my childhood, and it was super rewarding to revisit this movie. Huge thanks for the invite.
Please check out his channel as well. Johnny makes some incredible content. And thanks so much to you for watching. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content content like.
Alrighty, so yeah, man, that's just gonna about do it for this one, man. This is iconic. Like I said, man, they making a sequel as we speak. I can't wait for that to come out. When they drop the trailer, definitely gonna do a reaction video to it. Cause I'm a dude, he's a dude, she's a dude, cause we're all dudes. This my shit, man. I love this shit, man. This is definitely what defined the 90s. And if you a 90s kid, everything he said in this video is so true. Like, if you weren't a 90s kid growing up in the Kenan and Kel era of Nickelodeon and their dominance, bro, this may not hit the same to you, but it hits different to me, bro. This is arguably some of the best. This is some of the best times to be these are some of the best times to be a kid, man. It just take you back to the good old days, man. So yeah, that's just gonna about do it for this one. I'll see you all in the next video. Till then, welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?